Welcome, everyone. I'll keep it brief this morning. I know some of you might be getting coffee. But the real question, most of you here today, you've learned about crypto, you want to evangelize crypto in your organization. And the real question, in the panels over the last couple of days, you'll hear about wonderful technology that's been built in crypto over the last 12 years. And in my journey in crypto, there's been a nagging question, which is, why don't we have more users on chain? And I think we have somewhere between 30 to 60 million active users. And my belief is that we've built wonderful technology, but we still don't have crypto relatable for many people. You walk outside, you go to an event, you go back to your normal office job, and people might say, hey, what about this? Or what about that? Or that? Or maybe that? And so we keep running through this list, and it's very distracting. And look, every wonderful piece of technology, every major technological revolution has been fueled by speculation. It is important energy. It has allowed us to fund core infrastructure over the last 10, 12 years that has allowed us to be at this inflection point that we are as an industry, which is we are ready to export this technology and make it relatable for 1 billion users. So that's really the question that I've had in the back of my mind. And it is the inspiration for my new project called Inversion. And so a lot of times, crypto gets distracted by this noise. So what's really happening under the hood, and you'll hear it in other conversations at DAS and elsewhere, but it goes a bit unnoticed, is that Stripe, one of the leading fintech companies, is going all in on stablecoins. Why? Because they've realized that you can't out-innovate your way out of the financial system. There's a structural limitation. We are running on antiquated databases, and so you buy a company like Bridge for $1 billion, which will likely be kind of what Facebook acquired Instagram, and I think that will be a hallmark moment for a leading fintech company entering the space, appreciating that stablecoins are room temperature semiconductors, as one of the Collison brothers called it. You also see a company like Helium reducing wireless data cogs by 75%. So if you're a telco executive, you may or may not be paying attention to it because you just focus on meme coins, but this is real. It's happening today. You also have Blackbird allowing restaurants which have cutthroat margins, allow them to have a margin uplift of 2x. You have, certainly a lot of people here have heard Larry Fink talk about crypto and Bitcoin, but more importantly, they're issuing treasuries on chain and allowing people to access these financial products. So you have one of the leading fintech companies, you have one of the leading banks, financial institutions in the world get excited about crypto. And when I look at that, I fundamentally believe that we are at a point in this industry where we can really onboard 1 billion users. So again, the question is, why don't we have 1 billion users? And normal theory might dictate that we're going to have to wait 12 years to deploy this technology. But candidly, I'm not ready. I don't want to wait 12 years. I think we could do it much faster than that. And here's how. Every business will use crypto much faster than most people think. Why? For the simple reason that technology always gets adopted. It allows you to cut costs. It allows you to deliver a core service to the user, which is faster, better, and cheaper. And so most of the user journey today, and by show of hands, most people that come into crypto to use these products might have heard about a family member, a friend, a neighbor that made life-changing money on crypto. So what happens? You go log into an exchange, you try to replicate that. You might buy Bitcoin, you might buy meme coin, then you might sit on that. And that user journey is fundamentally broken because we can't expect people to use core services or think about using core services powered by crypto like a stablecoin when they go to the casino. And there's nothing wrong with a casino, it's just that the limited audience for that is a very limited audience, right? But this is the fundamental premise of Inversion. We believe that every business will be using crypto rails. We are not here to convince them. We are here to acquire them and we are here to show the world how you can do this playbook. And so quite simply, our thesis and our mission is to acquire traditional business and transform it with crypto rails. So what does that really look like? As I said, our North Star is to make crypto invisible, which is I never want the user to understand or feel the crypto side of it. In the same way that you might board a plane going back home, you don't care if that business engine is Rolls-Royce or some other manufacturer. You're just boarding that flight, you want to get home on time. You don't care how that particular file gets sent when you send an email. So the best technology is invisible. Crypto will be invisible. And so over the last 4 years, I've obsessed about this idea, which is where can we do this today with the least amount of risk? Which type of business can we acquire where we can go in there, we can cut down costs in a very meaningful way, because you can always control costs. And crypto is that technology that allows you to out-innovate your way out of systems that are antiquated, that have a lot of friction to them, and that have a lot of cost to that. And so how do we do this practically? And I hope that in a year's time, I might come here and report back, because we're very excited. We've done a lot of thinking and traction on this front. So we acquire a mobile carrier called an MVNO. It's a fancy term for a wireless company like Mint Mobile or Metro PCS that don't own any infrastructure. Why a mobile company? Because everyone has a smartphone. You live with a customer 24/7. So we can go in there and acquire a company, use and deploy a network of decentralized hotspots, and lower costs in a very meaningful way. The customer never sees that, never feels the disruption, but as a company, we save anywhere from 30, 40 to 50% on COGS. By cutting costs, we are able to be aggressive in how we acquire customers, the type of product and service that we deliver to them, but it always starts with controlling costs. And crypto is that technology. So a network like Helium that you might hear about today allows us to do this. We can deploy hotspots and structurally make that business more efficient. And why mobile? Because in a world where money is digital, your phone becomes your bank. And there is no better platform business to activate a user to use and acquire what is a stablecoin. We will not call it a stablecoin, we simply call it a digital dollar. And so I grew up in Mexico, and I can tell you everyone in Mexico, everyone in Latin America, everyone in the world wants access to dollars. This is why BlackRock is tokenizing treasuries. This is why Tether is probably one of the more profitable businesses per employee. I think it makes more money than most investment banks. And so once we acquire a company with a large user base at a really interesting price, because mind you, most of these mobile carriers have a terrible EBITDA margin, anywhere from 8 to 10%. We can double that margin by lowering costs. And again, the user never feels the impact, never sees crypto. Crypto is invisible, it's on the back end. But they will certainly see the ability to have in their wallet a digital dollar and earn yield on that. And that is a core service. Mobile and fintech and bank is a core service. That user doesn't ever think about crypto, doesn't care if Bitcoin's at 100K, 60K, 30K, or goes to zero. They are here because they are being serviced a product that is fundamentally on par or better than what they can get with a traditional competitor. And so that's really it. That's the core idea. As an industry, the only way that we've onboarded these 30 to 60 million users is by having them register on an exchange. And that has served us well. That energy is important, but it won't get us to 1 billion users. And this is how we onboard 1 billion users. So what does this look like? Inversion is predicated on the idea that blockchains are economic systems. We can run this playbook of acquiring these businesses where we can fundamentally lower costs in an interesting way, where crypto is invisible. That drives non-speculative activity on our chain, where we're servicing core services to the user. That drives more economic value to the chain. And we can fundamentally run this playbook over and over and over. because there is no shortage of mobile companies in the world, and there's no shortage of users in the world that want access to dollars. And so in summary, Inversion chain, and the idea for Inversion, and I hope that I can come back here in a year, is to update you on the progress that we've made to acquire a traditional company like a mobile carrier, where we make those businesses more efficient. And I hope that the industry analyst at JP Morgan or Goldman or whatever says, wait a minute, what have you done here? You've bought a mobile carrier, and every mobile carrier in the world has a less than 10% EBITDA margin. And you somehow have a 20% EBITDA margin. What have you done? You must have done AI. You must have implemented some fancy thing. And I'm like, no, it was one transformation, one thing, and that was crypto. And I've sat on a chair with my co-host Jason in a podcast trying to evangelize this technology. We all talk about crypto being the settlement layer of the internet, being an expansion pack of the internet, all these beautiful terms, but no one believes it. In the same way that 20 years ago, Bill Gates was talking about the internet becoming the operating system and that every business would use it, and he got laughed out of the room. But that's going to change, and it won't change in 12 years, and I don't want to wait 12 years. We have 4 years to do that. And so once we take that business and we tell them that it was just one thing where we drove that efficiency, I think that is that email moment that this industry needs, where unequivocally we can prove to the world that Bitcoin and all these other assets is the least interesting thing about this technology. Because the best technology is invisible, and that is crypto. Fundamentally, crypto will be the operating system. Every business will use crypto in the next 10 years. And the best part of this is that we deliver extreme value to the end user. And in many ways, it's actually very surprising that we've had 30 to 60 million users jump through hoops and create a wallet and have to figure out security and play in this casino of meme coins and keep coming back. There's something very powerful about this technology. I fundamentally believe that crypto is the most impactful socioeconomic transformation of our generation. We just need to build a better funnel. We need to activate those users in a very unsuspecting way and fit into their daily lives. And you asked me why I want to do this, because I just got tired of going to Thanksgiving dinners or going to normal conversations. And in 1 year, you're the most popular person because Bitcoin's at 100K. 2 years later, you're the least popular person because there's some rug or people lost money. And I think this industry is far more than a casino. We know that, we believe that. We just have to show people what that looks like. And I hope that with this playbook, I think some companies have a natural limitation of how big they can get. I draw a lot of inspiration from Tencent, which is an everything company in China. I draw a lot of inspiration from Berkshire Hathaway, which has created this portfolio of companies that deliver core services to users. And I think in a similar manner, if we run this playbook over and over and over, we will get to 1 billion users. And so I hope, you might believe this, you might not believe this. I'm not here to tell you, I'm here to show you. And I hope that in a year's time, where we come back to DAS, we will report back and we can, have made some great progress on this front. So in summary, I think over the last 12 years, we've done an incredible amount of traction as an industry. There is no better time to do this playbook. 4 years ago, I couldn't have told you that. The tech wasn't ready. High throughput blockchains were still kind of an idea. We now have very interesting proof points. We've stress tested this technology to a point where I fundamentally believe that we can have 1 billion users, and we can have 1 billion users we can have them today. And I just woke up one day and I said, I can't live with myself when I do this. And so if you feel inspired, we are hiring a bunch of people. This is as much of a private equity fund as it is a go-to-market strategy. And so you can reach out. We'll be here. And our first office will be in New York. So thank you very much.